Okay, so in this video, I'm going to try to give you an overview of RStudio. This is a really good tool in order to analyze your SSD project. There's the website that I posted to the class website on D2L SSD analysis that also has really good videos on how to use RStudio to analyze your data, how to install the program, the different functions of SSD for R. But I'm just going to make a brief video of how to do the activities that are required for this course. I'm hoping that my videos are just like the very bare bones basic of what you'll need to do for your project. Again, I would strongly recommend the following textbook, SSD for R. This is the textbook that I've got all of our activities from. So for the field of social work, I've found that most other programs are moving over to RStudio. I went to my first RStudio workshop maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, and I've seen that it's just become more popular over the years. So I think it's a valuable tool for you to know how to use. I'm not just doing this to torture you. I think it's something that would be good for you to be able to talk about on your CV or in an interview as a skill that I'm hoping you take away from this course. And maybe you're not going to be an expert in R by any means. That certainly takes years of practice and experience, but even just to get your feet wet and feel somewhat comfortable with some of the basic functions, I think that's a real valuable tool for you to have from this course. So for these activities, I'm not going to have my face videotaped on here. I think it's kind of unnecessary, but here we go. Okay, so I'm not going to make an individual video for installing SSD for R because I think the SSD analysis website does a really good job of doing that. And I think that there's even better instructions on how to do it if you're a Mac user. I'm personally a PC user. But if you go under the videos on the website, you can find the videos for installing R. You can even go directly to their YouTube page. And from their YouTube page, you can find the various instructions for installing R and some of the basics, whether you're a Mac or a PC user like myself. So I'm going to skip to after we already have RStudio installed. And again, I would just say look at the SSD analysis website for more instructions on the installation process. Okay, so from D2L, you can find the various activities. There's going to be 5 exercises that are due for credit for the course. And the reason that I want you to have these done before finishing your final paper is because I'd like for you to know how to do all these different functions of RStudio prior to analyzing your own paper. I know that for some people, this is a novel environment, and I appreciate that can be anxiety provoking, but rest assured, even people who have very minimal experience with any kind of statistical software program, this should be pretty straightforward, easy, primarily copy paste. So I even though you might get nervous when you're first looking at this, I think that it's pretty user friendly once you kind of get used to the environment. And I would say maybe the first activity is probably the hardest one, just because you're learning how to get used to the software. But then after that, it's primarily just copying and pasting from the Word documents that I posted to D2L. So in this first exercise, it says attach a data file and create a graph. So the instructions here, it says RStudio data is posted to SSD analysis and D2L. So in order to get started, you're going to want to download the Jenny.csv file. So that's similar to an Excel spreadsheet, but it's saved in a different format. So it's comma separated values is what the CSV stands for. You can still open and manipulate the file within Excel, but as you save it, the reason that you're saving it specifically as a CSV file is because that's what RStudio reads. So whenever you're analyzing your data, you want to make sure that you're saving it as a CSV file. So it's pretty simple to do. Typically, if you're going to be saving it somewhere, it should default to an Excel workbook. So for whenever you're doing your own paperwork or whenever you're doing your own assignment, you're going to want to change it from just an Excel spreadsheet down to a CSV file. So the comma delineated file. Anyway, so that's the first step. And I'll put a Excel spreadsheet where you can enter your own data. So for your final paper, you're going to want to collect at least 2 weeks worth of original data. So most people should feel pretty comfortable entering that into Excel spreadsheet by now. The new part for you is how you're going to be doing or using RStudio to analyze that data. So once you have your data, open RStudio, and I've got a screenshot of what it's going to look like. So the first steps, I've got two columns here, the commands and their purpose. So the first command is basically just telling you to open up SSD4R. So I think for these activities, I've tried to make the blue text so that you can just highlight it and then just copy and paste it. And it's probably worth mentioning that SSD4R is case sensitive. So just make sure that you're following the right case. So if it's lowercase here, make sure that it's lowercase in RStudio. So you can just highlight it, copy, and paste it right into RStudio. Then you just click enter, and it should load the package for you. So that's your first step, just to make sure that RStudio is up and running. The next step is to get your comma separated value file. So you're just going to want to copy and paste this code into SSD4R. You can just copy and paste it right into here. Click enter to run. And you should have a file explorer that just pops up automatically. So depending on where you saved Jenny.csv from D2L, or the SSD analysis website, I have mine saved in my R instructional file. So I'm just going to click on Jenny and open it. One step that people often forget is to attach the file. So that's the next step here. Once you've found the file that you want, so step one is to start SSD4R. Step 2 is to find the file. Step 3 is to click it. And now we've got the final step is to attach it. So we want to attach the file to SSD4R so that we can analyze it. And it's worth noting that you're not going to get any confirmation that it worked. So something that I typically do just to make sure that it did work is to put this code into here. And from now, we can see that we've got the variables that we wanted to load. So that's just like a good checkpoint to make sure that it worked right. So if we're going to look at a graph here, this is a graph of those variables that I put up. This is just going to be an A-B plot. So in single system design, as we've talked a lot about, most of your designs are going to be just an A-B baseline intervention plot. So you can copy and paste that into here, hit enter, and your graph should look a little bit like this. I have an example in the Word document here as well. So once you have these graphs, there's an export option here where you can save the image as. You can save it as a PDF, or you can just copy it to a clipboard. So if you wanted to just save these steps for your assignment, for what you're going to upload to the course website, that's fine. I'm not extremely picky about what you submit. My main concern is that you get comfortable with this program. So copy it to a clipboard. You can just, copy the plots, and you can paste it into a Word document if you want. So just anything like this, I just copied and pasted it into here. This is just something that you can submit for your assignment if you want. But then the next steps is to create a graphical representation of central tendencies. So this is a little bit more complex. So if you want to compute the baseline mean, there's an A/B stat. So if we wanted to find the mean amount of yelling, this Excel spreadsheet is based on number of outbursts that Jenny is having in a classroom. You can learn more about it if you bought the textbook on page 30. So I'm going to copy and paste this code into here. And we can see that the mean is 2.8 during the baseline phase. And if you want to click on the graph itself, it'll put a line across at the 2.8 mark. If you want to label it, you can put text, so AB text. Within the parentheses, I want the label to read mean, so I put that within my quotation marks. So if I'm happy with that line at 2.8, I can click that I want to accept that line, yes. I could click no and it would disappear, but I'm just going to leave it. All right, so my next line of code, AB text mean, hit enter. And where do I want that text? You can put it on the right side if you want, on top of it. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to, here I have it underneath the line, but I'm just going to put it right here. There's my mean line. If I'm not happy with it, I can hit no. Maybe I can try it again over here. That looks better. Okay, if I wanted to calculate the median for some reason, I could do the same thing pretty much as the first command, but instead of doing mean, I would just do the median. I'm gonna put that in here, and my median is 2. So I should be able to click over here and make the median line at 2. I'll accept that and do the same step, but label it with median this time. And I'll have the median over here. There we go. I'll accept that. Let's say hypothetically I wanted to look at some trends because I'm just curious if there's any kind of real trend in the data. I can put in a regression line. So here's the prompt for that. I'll copy that into here and paste it. And you can see the regression line plot that popped up. But unfortunately I lose some of my other lines if I do it in that order. But you certainly don't need to go back and redo any of those steps. If you want to just copy and paste out this graph for your assignment, that's fine too. Okay, and then the last step here is just to do the exports that I said. So you can export, copy to clipboard, copy the plots, and we'll put this in a new Word document. And then for your assignment, if you want to try using some of the course materials that I have on writing up graphs using acceleration line, or if you wanted to write up your central tendency graph, that'd be great too. So I would just say when you're going to upload your assignment to D2L, you could put something like this graph, and then you could write something using the course materials along the lines of based upon a visual review of the baseline data, and then fill in the rest of your write-up for this graph, and then submit that to D2L. And if there's any room for improvement, I'll let you know. But I would just say that I generally grade these based upon effort. So unless there's anything glaringly wrong with it, you'll probably get the full credit for it. But feel free to email me with any questions.